Now we're moving on to Company E. This is First Lieutenant Algernon Emery Smith, who is the commanding officer of the Company E, Gray Horse Troop. And right behind Smith is the executive officer, James Garland Sturgis. And moving back, we have Frederick Hormeyer. He is First Sergeant for Company E, found in Deep Ravine. And Sergeant William B. James. And we have Sergeant John S. Ogden here. He was found in Deep Ravine, down by the river. And Corporal George C. Brown, still Company E personnel. Corporal Thomas P. Egan, he was likewise identified in Deep Ravine. A lot of men from Company E were killed in Deep Ravine, identified there, as well as this individual, Corporal Henry S. Mason, found in Deep Ravine. And another one, Corporal Albert H. Meyer, found in Deep Ravine. Next we have trumpeter Thomas McElroy, Company E, and another trumpeter, George A. Mooney. And now we move on to the fifth and last company in the Custer Battalion. This is Company L, and this is First Lieutenant James Calhoun, the commander of Company L, the brother-in-law of George, Tom, and Boston Custer. He married Maggie Custer. Behind Calhoun is the executive officer of Company L. This is Second Lieutenant John Jordan Crittenden, killed on Calhoun Hill. Behind Crittenden is First Sergeant James Butler. He was found in the Medicine Tail area on a little rise above Fort B, which actually bears his name now. It's called Butler Ridge. And here is Sergeant William Cashin, and behind him is Sergeant Amos B. Warren. A lot of Company L personnel here. Moving back up, we have Corporal William H. Gilbert and Corporal William H. Harrison and Corporal John Seiler. Continuing back, we have Trumpeter Frederick Walsh, Company L. And we have Blacksmith Charles Seaman. A lot of Company L personnel. Company L had the most men in it out of all the Custer Battalion companies. That's Farrier William H. Heath. And continuing back, we have Saddler Charles Perkins. And now we're done, Company L. We're going to move from the Custer Battalion and move to individuals that were killed with Reno. First individual we have is First Lieutenant Donald McIntosh. He is the commander of Company G. He was killed during the Reno retreat. And behind McIntosh we have Second Lieutenant Benjamin Hubert Hodgson of Company B. He was detached with Reno, and he was the adjutant for Reno on the day of the battle. He was left in the woods, and he was killed at the retreat crossing, trying to get across the Little Bighorn River and make it up to the bluffs. Up front here we have First Sergeant DeWitt Winnie of Company K. He was killed on Reno Hill. Behind him is the civilian scout, Bloody Knife, Custer's favorite scout. He was killed in the timber fight. Behind Bloody Knife we have another Indian scout. This is Bobtail Bull, and he's actually the sergeant of the Indian Scouts. He was killed during the Reno retreat. As was another Indian scout. Right behind Bobtail Bull we have Little Brave, killed on the retreat. Next we move on to James Madison DeWolf. He is an acting assistant surgeon. He doesn't hold a military rank. He is a civilian. He was killed up on the bluffs as he was trying to make his way to Reno Hill. Behind DeWolf we have Isaiah Dorman. He is the Dakota Sioux interpreter and the only black man with the regiment. Another civilian. He was killed during the Reno retreat. And continuing back, we have Charles Alexander Reynolds. He is a civilian guide. He was killed during the retreat. And moving back, we have a civilian packer, Frank C. Mann. He was with the pack train most of the day, but he made it to Reno Hill and was actually killed on Reno Hill on June 25th. Now we have special personnel. This is Corporal George C. Lell. He was actually killed on June 26th, 1876. All the other individuals I've shown you were killed on the 25th. So that's a special marker there, to actually have 26 on there rather than 25th. Now these last 5 markers are real special. These are all people that were wounded on Reno Hill and they died of wounds later on. Here we have Corporal George H. King. He was actually wounded on Reno Hill. He died of wounds on July 2nd, 1876. Behind King we have William N. George, who was a private. He died of wounds on July 3rd, 1876. Further back we have Private James C. Bennett. He died of wounds of July 5th, 1876. And continuing back we have Private David Cooney. He was wounded on Reno Hill and he died of wounds on July 20th, 1876. And one of the most unlucky individuals of all, the last marker I have to show you, is Private Frank Braun. He was wounded on Reno Hill. He didn't die until October 4th, 1876. So, 3 months in bed and still ended up dying, so that's pretty brutal there. Bad way to go. So that's the 87 memorial markers that I have now. All 5 companies are represented in the Custer Battalion. The officers are all here, everybody from headquarters. All of the non-commissioned officers are also in here, as well as all the private soldiers that had special designations: saddlers, farriers, trumpeters, blacksmiths, things like that. Individuals that died with Reno, officers, non-commissioned officers, and of course all the individuals that died of wounds are in the pile here. All I have left to go are just the regular private individuals in the Custer Battalion, and there's a few non-commissioned staff, things like that, that I have to do for Reno's battalions. So that is it. That's the marker collection right now. So now we are going to move on to photographs of some of these individuals.